The stars stretched endlessly across the view screen as Commander Jake Harper stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn. His hands rested behind his back, a habit he had picked up during his years in the Terran Space Navy. The bridge was busy with activity. Officers moved between stations, checking systems and running diagnostics. The soft glow of computer screens lit their faces in the dim lighting. "Status report," Jake said, his voice calm and steady. Lieutenant Amy Brooks turned from her tactical station. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight bun and her blue eyes were focused. "All systems are green, Commander. Weapons are charged and ready. Shields are at full power. We're ready for whatever comes our way." Jake nodded. The Valiant Dawn was humanity's pride. A massive dreadnought that represented everything humans had learned since joining the galactic community 3 years ago. She was different from other ships in the galaxy. Where alien vessels relied on droids and automated systems, the Valiant Dawn was run by a crew of 800 humans. Every station, every weapon, every system had a person behind it. Chief Engineer Danny Price's voice crackled through the intercom. "Commander, the hyperdrives are running smooth. I've got my team checking every connection twice. We won't have any surprises when it's time to jump." "Good work, Danny," Jake replied. He trusted his chief engineer completely. Danny had a way of making machines work even when they shouldn't. It was a human talent that had surprised many alien species. The door to the bridge slid open, and Dr. Ben Walsh walked in. The ship's chief medical officer looked tired but determined. "Commander, medical bay is ready. I've got supplies stocked for any emergency. My team knows what to do." Jake appreciated the update. Ben was thorough, always thinking 3 steps ahead. That was the kind of crew Jake had. People who didn't just follow orders but understood why those orders mattered. Communications Officer Kate Sullivan suddenly sat up straight at her station. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Terran Command. It's marked urgent." "Put it through," Jake said. Admiral Peter Grant's face appeared on the main screen. The Admiral was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had fought in the early conflicts when humanity first ventured into space. "Commander Harper, we have a situation. A separatist fleet has been attacking neutral colonies in the Outer Rim. 3 worlds have been hit in the past 2 weeks. Millions of civilians are at risk." Jake felt his jaw tighten. The separatists were one of the major powers in the ongoing Clone Wars. They had vast resources and a ruthless leader known as General Grievous. "What are our orders, sir?" "The separatist fleet is heading toward Kasara Prime. It's a colony world under our protection. We need you to intercept them. Stop them before they reach the planet." The Admiral paused. "Jake, their fleet is led by the Invisible Hand. That's Grievous himself." The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew that name. General Grievous was a legend of terror across the galaxy. He had destroyed countless Republic ships and killed many Jedi. He was part machine, part organic, and completely deadly. Amy looked at Jake with concern. "Commander, the Invisible Hand is one of the biggest dreadnoughts in the Separatist fleet. We'll be outnumbered." Jake turned to face his crew. He saw worry in some faces, but he also saw determination. These were humans. They didn't back down from a challenge. "Admiral, the Valiant Dawn is ready. We'll stop them." Admiral Grant nodded with approval. "I knew I could count on you. The Republic has been watching how we handle ourselves out here. This is our chance to show them what humanity can do. Good luck, Commander. May the stars guide you home." The screen went dark. Jake took a deep breath and looked at his crew. "You all heard the Admiral. We have a job to do. Amy, plot a course to Kasara Prime. Maximum speed." "Course plotted." "Commander," Amy responded quickly. "Danny, I need those hyperdrives at peak performance," Jake continued. "You'll get every bit of power I can give you." Danny's voice came back through the intercom. Jake walked to the center of the bridge. "Listen up, everyone. We're about to face one of the toughest enemies in the galaxy. They have more ships, more firepower, and more experience. But we have something they don't. We have each other. We're not droids following programming. We're humans and we adapt, we think. We fight with everything we have." The crew straightened at their stations. Jake could feel their resolve strengthening. "Pilot Lisa Grant, are the fighter squadrons ready?" Jake asked. Lisa's voice came through from the hangar bay. "Ready and waiting, Commander. My pilots are eager to show these separatists what human flying looks like." "Good. Everyone to your stations. We jump in 5 minutes." Jake returned to his command chair and strapped in. Amy counted down the seconds. Jumping in 3, 2, 1 mark. The stars stretched into lines of light as the Valiant Dawn entered hyperspace. The ship hummed with power as it raced through the alternate dimension that allowed faster-than-light travel. Inside, the crew prepared for battle. Weapons teams checked their systems. Fighter pilots climbed into their cockpits. Medical teams readied emergency supplies. In engineering, Danny and his crew made final adjustments to the reactors. "Keep an eye on those power levels," Danny instructed his team. "The commander is going to push this ship hard. We need to be ready to give him everything." In the medical bay, Dr. Ben Walsh organized his staff. "Remember your training. Stay calm, work fast, and save every life you can. We're all counting on each other today." On the bridge, Kate Sullivan monitored communication channels. She was picking up scattered reports from HFY Prime. The colonists there knew the separatists were coming. They were scared but hopeful that help would arrive in time. Jake watched the hyperspace tunnel through the view screen. His mind was already planning strategies. The separatists would expect them to fight like Republic ships, with traditional tactics and formations. But the valiant Dawn would surprise them. Humans had studied warfare for thousands of years on Earth. They had learned lessons in blood and sacrifice. Those lessons would serve them well today. Amy broke the silence. "Commander, we'll be dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds. Sensors are already detecting multiple ships at the target location. All hands, battle stations," Jake announced over the ship-wide intercom. "This is it. Stay sharp, trust your training, and watch each other's backs. Let's show them what the valiant Dawn can do." The ship dropped out of hyperspace, and the view changed from streaking light to the darkness of normal space. Ahead of them, HFY Prime hung like a blue and green jewel. Between the valiant Dawn and the planet stood the separatist fleet. Dozens of ships, their hulls dark and menacing. And at the center, the massive form of the invisible hand dominated the formation. The battle was about to begin. The separatist fleet hung in space like a wall of steel between the valiant Dawn and HFY Prime. Jake counted at least 40 ships on his tactical display. Frigates, destroyers, and carrier vessels surrounded the massive invisible hand at the center. The enemy Dreadnought was enormous, easily twice the size of the valiant Dawn. Reading multiple weapon signatures, Amy reported from her station. "They're powering up. They know we're here." "Open a channel to the invisible hand," Jake ordered. Kate worked her controls and nodded. "Channel open, Commander." The view screen changed to show a figure that sent chills through the bridge. General Grievous stood tall, his mechanical body hunched forward. His yellow eyes glowed with malice. Forearms hung at his sides, each capable of wielding a lightsaber. He was covered in white armor plating, and his faceplate resembled a skull. "So the humans have come," Grievous said, his voice raspy and mechanical. "I have heard of your species. New to the galaxy, yet already interfering where you do not belong." Jake kept his expression neutral. "This system is under Terran protection. You will withdraw your fleet immediately." Grievous laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the communication. "You amuse me, human. You have one ship. I have a fleet. Your technology is primitive compared to mine. Your tactics are unknown. You cannot win this fight." "Then you have nothing to fear from letting us try," Jake replied calmly. The general's eyes narrowed. "I will give you one chance. Turn your ship around and leave. If you do, I will let you live. If you stay, I will add your wreckage to the debris field around this planet." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "Here's my counteroffer. Leave now, and we won't destroy your entire fleet." Grievous tilted his head, surprised by the audacity. Then he laughed again. "You have spirit, human. I will enjoy crushing it. All ships, open fire." The communication cut off. Instantly, the separatist fleet lit up with weapons fire. Laser bolts and plasma torpedoes streaked through space toward the valiant Dawn. "Evasive maneuvers," Jake commanded. "Amy, return fire. All batteries." The valiant Dawn rolled to port, her thrusters flaring bright. The first wave of enemy fire passed through the space where she had been seconds before. The Dreadnoughts' weapons came alive, turrets tracking targets and firing in coordinated bursts. The human approach to weapons was different from other species. Instead of single powerful shots, the valiant Dawn employed rapid-fire systems that could maintain sustained barrages. Dozens of weapons fired at once, creating a wall of destruction that tore into the nearest separatist frigate. "Direct hit on enemy frigate," Amy called out. "Their shields are down." "Hull breaching." "Keep firing," Jake ordered. "Don't give them time to recover." The valiant Dawn pressed forward into the enemy formation. It was an aggressive move that surprised the separatist commanders. Most ships would maintain distance and trade long-range fire. But Jake was using a human tactic: shock and awe. Hit hard, hit fast, and keep the enemy off balance. Lisa Grant's voice came through from the hangar bay. Fighter squadrons launching now, Commander. Through the view screen, Jake watched as 60 human fighters poured out of the Valiant Dawn's launch bays. They were smaller and more agile than the Separatist tri-fighters, and they moved with purpose. Lisa led her squadron in a tight formation directly toward the enemy carriers. The Separatist droid fighters moved to intercept, but they quickly found themselves outmatched. Human pilots didn't fly by programming. They used instinct, creativity, and years of training. Lisa's squadron split into smaller groups, each one using different attack patterns that confused the droid targeting systems. "This is Echo Leader." Lisa's voice came through the communication. "We're engaging enemy fighters. They're not ready for us." Jake allowed himself a small smile. "Keep them busy, Echo Leader. We're going after the big one." The Valiant Dawn pushed deeper into the Separatist formation. Enemy ships fired from all sides, but the human Dreadnoughts' overlapping point defense systems shot down most incoming missiles and torpedoes. The ship's armor absorbed the hits that got through. It was another human innovation: reactive armor plating that could absorb and disperse energy. "Target the invisible hand," Jake ordered. "Concentrate all forward batteries." Amy's fingers flew across her controls. "Locked on, Commander, firing." The Valiant Dawn's main guns thundered. Massive bolts of concentrated energy crossed the distance between the two dreadnoughts. They slammed into the invisible hand's shields, causing them to flare bright blue. The Separatist flagship shuddered under the impact but held firm. "Their shields are strong," Amy reported. "We'll need sustained fire to break through." "Then we keep shooting," Jake said simply. On the invisible hand, General Grievous watched the tactical display with growing interest. The human ship was fighting like nothing he had encountered before. It wasn't trying to outmaneuver his fleet. It was trying to outfight them. "Status of the human vessel?" Grievous demanded. A battle droid at a nearby console responded in its mechanical voice. "Their shields are holding at 70%. Minor hull damage. No significant system failures. How is that possible?" Grievous growled. "We have hit them with enough firepower to destroy 3 frigates. Their armor appears to be absorbing our attacks," the droid explained. "Their defensive systems are highly efficient." Grievous's mechanical hands clenched into fists. "All ships focus fire on that human dreadnought. I want it destroyed." The Separatist fleet adjusted its formation. Every ship that could bring weapons to bear turned toward the Valiant Dawn. The volume of fire increased dramatically. On the Valiant Dawn's bridge, alarms began to sound. "Shields at 50%, Amy reported. Multiple hits on deck 7 and 12. Point defense systems are being overwhelmed." Jake gripped the arms of his command chair. "Danny, I need more power to shields." "Working on it," Danny's voice came back strained. "Rerouting power from secondary systems. You'll have it in 30 seconds. Kate looked up from her station. "Commander, I'm picking up Republic signatures on long-range sensors. 2 ships heading this way." "Identify them," Jake ordered. "Venator-class Star Destroyers," Kate replied. "They're broadcasting Republic codes. Looks like the cavalry is coming." Jake nodded. "The Republic must have detected the battle and sent reinforcements. That would help even the odds. Amy, pull us back. Put some distance between us and the invisible hand. We'll wait for the Republic ships to arrive before pressing the attack again." "Pulling back now," Amy confirmed. The Valiant Dawn began to retreat, still firing as she went. The Separatist fleet pursued, unwilling to let their prey escape. Lisa's fighter squadrons covered the Dreadnought's withdrawal, harassing enemy ships and drawing fire away from the larger vessel. 2 new shapes dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the battle zone. The Republic Star Destroyers were triangular vessels, smaller than the Dreadnoughts but heavily armed. They immediately joined the fight, their red laser fire adding to the chaos. A communication came through from one of the Republic ships. "This is Captain Ryan Foster of the Republic Navy. We're here to assist." "Glad to have you, Captain," Jake responded. "We're facing a full Separatist fleet led by General Grievous." "Recommend we coordinate our attack," agreed, Ryan replied. "Let's show these Separatists what happens when they threaten innocent worlds." The 3 allied ships formed up into a loose formation. The Valiant Dawn at the center with the 2 Republic destroyers flanking her. Together they turned to face the Separatist fleet once more. Jake looked at his crew. They were tired, but their determination hadn't wavered. "Round 2, he said. "Let's make it count." The Allied fleet charged forward and the battle intensified. Space lit up with weapons fire, explosions, and the bright flashes of shields absorbing hits. The valiant Dawn and her allies pushed into the Separatist formation, trading shots with enemy vessels. General Grievous watched from his command deck. The humans were proving more resilient than he had expected. But the battle was far from over. He had more ships, more resources, and centuries of combat experience. These humans would learn what it meant to face the might of the Separatist war machine. The real fight was just beginning. The battle had become a brutal exchange of firepower. The valiant Dawn and her Republic allies fought side by side against the Separatist fleet. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as ships from both sides took damage. Debris floated between the vessels, remnants of destroyed fighters and damaged hulls. Jake watched his tactical display closely. The Separatist fleet had spread out, trying to surround the Allied ships. It was a standard maneuver, one that worked well against most opponents. But Jake had other plans. "Amy, send the coordinates to Captain Foster," Jake said. "We're going to punch through their center line." Amy looked uncertain. "Commander, that will put us directly in their crossfire. We'll be taking hits from all sides." "That's the idea," Jake replied. "They expect us to fight defensively. We're going to do the opposite. We're going straight for the invisible hand." Kate relayed the plan to the Republic ships. Captain Ryan Foster's voice came back immediately. "Commander Harper, that's a risky strategy. My tactical officers are advising against it." "With respect, Captain, your tactical officers aren't fighting this battle," Jake said firmly. "Trust me, this will work." There was a pause. Then Ryan responded, "All right, Commander. We'll follow your lead, but I hope you know what you're doing." "So do I," Jake muttered under his breath. He raised his voice. "All ships, full speed ahead. Target the invisible hand. We're going through, not around." The 3 Allied ships accelerated toward the center of the Separatist formation. The enemy fleet reacted immediately, focusing their fire on the approaching vessels. The valiant Dawn's shields flared as dozens of laser bolts struck her hull. Red warning lights blinked across the bridge. "Shields at 40%, Amy reported. "Taking heavy damage to the port side." "Keep going," Jake ordered. "Danny, transfer all available power to forward shields." In engineering, Danny and his team worked frantically. "Rerouting power now," Danny called back. "But Commander, we're pushing the reactors beyond their limits. We can't maintain this for long." "We don't need long," Jake said. "Just get us through." The valiant Dawn shook violently as a torpedo struck her starboard side. The lights on the bridge flickered. A console exploded, showering sparks across the deck. An officer cried out in pain as he was thrown from his station. Dr. Ben Walsh's voice came through the intercom. "Medical teams to bridge. We have casualties." "Stay focused," Jake called out to his crew. "We're almost through." The Allied ship smashed through the Separatist line like a hammer. They emerged on the other side, directly facing the invisible hand. The massive enemy Dreadnought loomed before them, its weapons ports glowing as it prepared to fire. "All batteries, fire at will," Jake commanded. The valiant Dawn unleashed everything she had. Every gun, every missile launcher, every weapon system fired simultaneously. The barrage was devastating. The invisible hand's shields absorbed most of the hits, but some shots got through, scarring the Dreadnought's dark hull. The Republic ships added their firepower to the assault. Red and blue energy bolts crisscrossed the space between the fleets. The invisible hand returned fire, its heavy guns targeting the valiant Dawn specifically. "Shields at 20%, Amy said, her voice strained. "We can't take much more of this." Jake knew they were reaching a critical point. They had gotten through the enemy formation, but now they were surrounded. The Separatist ships were closing in from all sides. He needed to change the dynamic of the battle. "Lisa, this is Harper," Jake called to his fighter commander. "I need you to take out the invisible hand's shield generators." "Can you do it?" Lisa's voice came back calm despite the chaos around her. "It'll be a tough run, Commander, but we can do it." "Give us covering fire." "You got it," Jake said. "Amy, focus our point defense systems on protecting the fighters. Keep those tri-fighters off them." "Adjusting fire now," Amy confirmed. Lisa's squadron regrouped and dove toward the invisible hand. The massive Dreadnought surface was covered with weapons turrets, all of them tracking the approaching human fighters. The squadron split into 3 groups, each approaching from a different angle. General Grievous watched from his command deck as the human fighters came at his ship. "Destroy them," he ordered coldly. "All defensive batteries open fire." The space around the invisible hand filled with laser fire. Human fighters twisted and rolled, dodging the streams of energy. One fighter took a direct hit and exploded. Another lost a wing and spiraled away out of control. Lisa led her group directly toward the primary shield generator, a large dome on the Dreadnought's upper hull. "Stay tight," she told her wingmen. "We only get one shot at this." The fighters raced across the invisible hand's hull, weapons firing. Turrets exploded under their assault. Lisa's targeting computer locked onto the shield generator. She squeezed her trigger and missiles streaked from her fighter's wings. The missiles struck the generator dead center. There was a brilliant flash as the device overloaded and exploded. The invisible hand's shields flickered and died. "Shields down on the invisible hand," Amy reported excitedly. "It's vulnerable." Jake saw his opportunity. "All ships concentrate fire on the invisible hand. Hit it with everything." The Valiant Dawn and the Republic destroyers turned their full attention to the enemy flagship. Without shields to protect it, the invisible hand's armor began to buckle under the sustained assault. Explosions rippled across its hull. Sections of the ship vented atmosphere into space, but the victory was short-lived. The rest of the Separatist fleet had regrouped and was now pressing the attack with renewed fury. The Valiant Dawn was surrounded and taking damage faster than her systems could compensate. "Shields completely down," Amy called out. "We're taking direct hits to the hull. Decks 9 through 14 are reporting major damage." An explosion rocked the bridge. Jake held onto his chair as the ship lurched. "Damage report." Kate checked her console, her face pale. "We've lost the port weapons array. Engineering reports Reactor 3 is offline. Life support is failing on multiple decks." Jake's mind raced. They were in serious trouble. The Valiant Dawn had dealt significant damage to the invisible hand, but his own ship was barely holding together. The Republic ships were faring better, but they couldn't stand alone against the entire Separatist fleet. Captain Ryan Foster's face appeared on the view screen. The Republic officer looked concerned. "Commander Harper, we need to withdraw. Your ship can't take much more damage." "Negative, Captain," Jake said. "If we pull back now, the Separatists will regroup and hit Kasara Prime. We have to finish this." "How?" Ryan asked. "Your ship is falling apart. We're outnumbered 3-1. This is suicide." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was battered and exhausted, but he saw no fear in their eyes. They trusted him. They believed in the mission. That faith gave him strength. "We're not done yet," Jake said quietly, then louder to his crew. "Danny, can you give me one more push?" Full power to weapons and engines. "Everything we have left." Danny's response came back immediately. "Commander, if I do that, we'll have a reactor breach within 10 minutes. Maybe less." "Then we better make those 10 minutes count," Jake said. "Do it." "Aye, Commander," Danny replied. Jake could hear the determination in his engineer's voice. The Valiant Dawn began to glow brighter as power surged through her systems. Her remaining weapons charged to maximum capacity. Her engines flared with brilliant light. "Amy, plot a collision course with the invisible hand," Jake ordered. The bridge went silent. Amy turned to look at him, her eyes wide. "Commander, a collision course? You mean—" "That's exactly what I mean," Jake said. "We're going to ram them. But before we do, we're going to launch every torpedo we have left. Point-blank range. We'll blow a hole in that ship they'll never forget." Ryan Foster's voice came through, alarmed. "Commander Harper, you can't be serious. That's a death sentence." "Not if we time it right," Jake said. "Captain Foster, I need you and your ships to cover our approach. Keep the other Separatist vessels off us long enough to reach the invisible hand." Ryan hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Understood, Commander. We'll buy you the time you need. May the Force be with you." Jake turned to his crew. "All hands abandon non-essential stations. Get to the escape pods. That's an order. No one moved." Amy spoke for all of them. "With respect, Commander, we're staying. We started this together. We'll finish it together." Jake felt a lump in his throat. He was proud of his crew beyond words. "Then let's make this count. All power to engines. Take us in." The Valiant Dawn surged forward, accelerating toward the invisible hand. The two Dreadnoughts were on a collision course, and neither was backing down. The Valiant Dawn raced toward the invisible hand like a wounded animal, making one final desperate charge. Every remaining engine fired at maximum thrust. The ship shook and groaned under the strain, but she kept moving forward. Around her, the battle raged as the Republic ships fought to keep the Separatist fleet at bay. Jake gripped the arms of his command chair. His knuckles were white. The bridge was filled with smoke from damaged systems. Sparks fell from overhead panels. Half the stations were offline, but the crew that remained worked with fierce determination. "Distance to target?" Jake asked. Amy's voice was steady despite everything. 2,000 meters in closing, impact in 90 seconds. On the invisible hand, General Grievous realized what the humans were attempting. His mechanical face twisted into something resembling shock. "They're trying to ram us. All weapons, destroy that ship. Now!" Every gun on the Separatist flagship opened fire. The space between the two dreadnoughts became a storm of laser bolts and plasma torpedoes. The Valiant Dawn's hull was torn open in multiple places. Fires burned on exposed decks. Entire sections of the ship went dark as power failed. "Hull breaches on decks 4, 7, 10, and 15, Kate reported, her voice shaking. "We're losing atmosphere across the ship. Emergency bulkheads are sealing, but we're losing people." Dr. Ben Walsh's medical bay had been destroyed 10 minutes ago. Now he worked in the cargo hold with what remained of his supplies. The wounded were everywhere. He moved between them, doing what he could with limited resources. "Stay with me," he told a young officer who had burns across his face. "That's an order." In engineering, Danny and his team worked in near darkness. The primary lights had failed, leaving only red emergency lighting. The heat was intense. Reactor 2 was showing critical readings. "Come on, hold together," Danny muttered to the machinery around him. "Just a little longer." An explosion shook engineering. Danny was thrown against a bulkhead. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he pushed himself up. One of his engineers, a woman named Kelly Briggs, lay motionless on the deck. He crawled to her and checked for a pulse. Nothing. He closed her eyes gently and kept moving. There would be time to grieve later if they survived. On the bridge, the view screen showed the invisible hand growing larger with every second. Jake could see the damage they had inflicted on the enemy ship. Large sections of the hull were blackened and torn, but Grievous's dreadnought was still fighting. 1,000 meters, Amy called out. 60 seconds to impact. Jake activated the ship-wide intercom one last time. "All hands, this is the commander. Brace for impact. It's been an honor serving with you." Lisa Grant and her remaining fighters swarmed around both dreadnoughts, still fighting. She had lost half her squadron, but the survivors kept flying. "Echo Squadron, form up on me," she ordered. "We're going to give them cover to the very end." The human fighters dove at the invisible hand's weapons turrets, drawing fire away from the Valiant Dawn. It was a suicide mission, and they all knew it. But they flew anyway, because that's what humans did. They protected their own. One of Lisa's wingmen, a pilot named Carl Hughes, took a direct hit. His fighter disintegrated in a ball of flame. Another pilot, Sharon Wells, managed to crash her damaged fighter into a Separatist gun battery. The explosion took out 3 turrets. 500 meters, Amy said, 30 seconds. "Prepare to launch all torpedoes," Jake ordered. "We'll fire at 200 meters. That close, they can't miss." Amy's hands moved across her console. Torpedoes armed, targeting the bridge section of the invisible hand. General Grievous stood on his command deck, watching the human dreadnought approach. He had fought countless battles across the galaxy. He had killed Jedi and destroyed fleets. But he had never seen anything quite like this. These humans fought with a ferocity that bordered on insanity. They didn't retreat. They didn't surrender. They just kept coming. "Sir, should we abandon ship?" a battle droid asked. Grievous turned and struck the droid, sending it flying across the deck. "No one abandons anything. Keep firing. Stop that ship." But the Valiant Dawn would not be stopped. She pushed through the wall of fire, taking hit after hit. Parts of her hull were now exposed to space. Whole decks were open to vacuum. But her engines still burned, and her course remained true. 200 meters, Amy said, launching torpedoes. Every remaining torpedo bay on the Valiant Dawn opened and fired. Hundreds of warheads streaked across the short distance between the two ships. They struck the invisible hand's hull in a devastating barrage. The enemy Dreadnoughts' armor buckled and broke. Secondary explosions rippled through the ship as the torpedoes penetrated deep into its interior. The Invisible Hand's bridge took a direct hit. The entire forward section of the ship exploded outward. General Grievous was thrown from his command deck. His mechanical body sparked and smoked as emergency systems kicked in. His personal guards rushed to extract him as the ship began to die around them. 100 meters, Amy called out. Impact in 10 seconds. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about Earth, his home world. He thought about his family. He thought about all the people depending on him to stop the Separatists from reaching Kasara Prime. He had done his duty. Whatever happened next, he had given everything. All hands brace, he said quietly. Danny's voice came through the intercom one last time. Commander, Reactor 3 is going critical. We have maybe 30 seconds before it blows. Thank you, Danny, Jake said. Thank you for everything. It's been a privilege, sir, Danny replied. The Valiant Dawn and the Invisible Hand were seconds from collision when something unexpected happened. The Separatist Dreadnought began to break apart. The torpedo barrage had done more damage than anyone realized. The ship's structural integrity had failed. Instead of one massive collision, the Valiant Dawn plowed through the disintegrating wreckage of the Invisible Hand. Metal screamed against metal. The Valiant Dawn's hull tore open further, but her momentum carried her through. She emerged on the other side of the debris field, battered beyond recognition but still intact. Jake opened his eyes. They had survived. Somehow, impossibly, they had survived. Emergency power only, Amy reported, her voice filled with disbelief. Engines are dead. Weapons are offline. Life support is failing. But we're still here. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Then someone started laughing. It was a sound of pure relief mixed with exhaustion. Others joined in. They had faced certain death and lived, but there was no time to celebrate. The rest of the Separatist fleet was still out there, and the Valiant Dawn was defenseless. Captain Ryan Foster's voice came through on the emergency channel. Commander Harper, do you read? Commander, respond. Jake found his voice. We're here, Captain. Barely. But we're here. Hang tight, Ryan said. We're coming to get you. The 2 Republic destroyers moved to protect the crippled Valiant Dawn. They formed a defensive screen around her, their weapons keeping the remaining Separatist ships at bay. But the enemy fleet was regrouping, preparing for another assault. Then something changed. The Separatist ships began to withdraw. Without the Invisible Hand and General Grievous to lead them, the fleet was falling apart. Ship by ship, they jumped to hyperspace, fleeing the battle. Jake watched them go, hardly believing it was over. Status of General Grievous? Kate checked her sensors. I'm detecting a small craft leaving the debris field. It's heading away at high speed. I think he escaped. Jake nodded slowly. Grievous had survived, but his fleet was scattered and his flagship destroyed. The threat to Kasara Prime was over. Get me a damage report, Jake ordered. I need to know who we lost. The numbers came in slowly. The Valiant Dawn had started the battle with a crew of 800. Only 400 were still alive. Half the ship was destroyed or uninhabitable. They had paid a terrible price for their victory, but they had won. Against impossible odds, the humans had stood their ground and won. 3 days had passed since the battle. The Valiant Dawn drifted in space near Kasara Prime, held in place by Republic tractor beams. The once proud Dreadnought looked like a broken toy. Her hull was torn open in dozens of places. Whole sections of the ship were gone, simply blown away during the fight. But she was still there, still holding together through sheer stubborn determination. Jake stood on what remained of the bridge, looking out through a temporary viewport. The original view screen had been destroyed. Now there was just a sheet of transparent aluminum keeping the vacuum at bay. He wore a pressure suit, as did everyone still working on the ship. Life support had failed in most sections. Amy approached him, her suit marked with scorch marks and patches. Commander, the evacuation is almost complete. The wounded are being transferred to the Republic medical ships. Dr. Walsh says he'll stay until the last person is off. Jake nodded. Ben had worked without rest for 3 days, saving as many lives as he could. The doctor was a hero, like so many others on this ship. What's the final count? Amy's voice was heavy. 412 survivors out of 800. We lost a lot of good people, Commander. Jake felt the weight of every single loss. Each name on that list represented someone he had commanded, someone who had trusted him to bring them home safely. He had failed half of them. Has engineering provided a status report? Danny says the ship is a total loss. The reactors are barely stable. The hull structure is compromised. She'll never fly again. Amy paused. But he also said something else. He said the Valiant Dawn did exactly what she was built to do. She fought and she protected her crew as long as she could. Jake reached out and touched the wall. The metal was cold even through his glove. She was a good ship. The best? Kate Sullivan approached carrying a data pad. Commander, we're receiving messages from all over the galaxy. The Republic Senate is requesting a full report. Terran Command wants to speak with you. And there are news organizations from 100 different worlds asking for interviews. What are they saying? Jake asked. Kate smiled for the first time in days. They're calling it the Battle of Kasara Prime. They're saying humanity proved itself. The Republic is talking about forming a formal alliance with us. Even some separatist worlds are reaching out saying they want to negotiate. Jake looked at her in surprise. Negotiate? We just destroyed their flagship. Exactly, Kate said. We showed them we can fight. Now they respect us. That's how the galaxy works, apparently. You have to prove your strength before anyone takes you seriously. Captain Ryan Foster's shuttle docked with the Valiant Dawn an hour later. The Republic officer made his way through the damaged corridors to find Jake. When he reached the bridge, he looked around at the destruction and shook his head. I've been in the Republic Navy for 15 years, Ryan said. I've seen a lot of battles, but I've never seen anything like what you did here. We did what we had to do, Jake replied simply. No, Ryan said firmly. You did more than that. You fought with a courage and determination that inspired everyone who witnessed it. My crew, the civilians on Kasara Prime, even some of the separatist prisoners we've taken. They all say the same thing. The humans refuse to quit. Jake gestured to the ruined bridge. It cost us dearly. All victories do, Ryan said gently. But you saved millions of people on Kasara Prime. You destroyed one of the separatists' most powerful ships and scattered their fleet. And you showed the entire galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. Over the next few weeks, the story of the battle spread across every world and station in the galaxy. In Republic space, humans were celebrated as heroes. In separatist territory, military planners studied the battle carefully, trying to understand the human way of war. Lisa Grant, who had survived the battle with only 3 other pilots from her squadron, found herself promoted and given command of an entire fighter wing. They want human tactics integrated into Republic training, she told Jake during a visit. They want our pilots teaching their pilots how we think, how we fight. Danny Price refused medical leave and instead joined the team designing the next generation of human warships. We learned a lot from the Valiant Dawn, he explained. What worked, what didn't. The next ships we build will be even better. Dr. Ben Walsh received commendations from multiple governments for his actions during and after the battle. When asked about it, he simply said, I did my job. So did everyone else on that ship. 2 months after the battle, Jake stood in the Terran Naval Headquarters on Earth. He was being promoted to captain and given command of a new ship. The Indomitable Spirit was the first of a new class of Dreadnoughts. Designed using every lesson learned from the Valiant Dawn, Admiral Peter Grant performed the ceremony, pinning the new rank insignia on Jake's uniform. Captain Harper, you and your crew have brought honor to humanity. You've proven that we belong among the stars. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. Jake looked out at the assembled crowd. He saw Amy Brooks promoted to commander and assigned as his executive officer again. He saw survivors from the Valiant Dawn, all of them receiving new assignments and promotions. He saw the families of those who hadn't made it home, their faces showing both grief and pride. We didn't do this for glory, Jake said when it was his turn to speak. We did it because it was right, because people needed help, and we were in a position to give it. That's what humanity does. We stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. We fight when fighting is necessary. And we never ever give up. The crowd erupted in applause, but Jake was thinking about the 400 who hadn't made it home. They were the real heroes. They had given everything so that others could live. The ceremony ended, and Jake made his way to the memorial wall being constructed outside the headquarters. It would list the names of everyone lost in the Battle of Kasara Prime. The wall was still under construction, but already some names had been carved into the black stone. Jake ran his fingers over the letters. Kelly Briggs, Carl Hughes, Sharon Wells, so many more. "We'll remember," he said quietly. "Every one of you." Amy joined him at the wall. "The Indomitable Spirit launches in 3 months. The crew is already assembling. A lot of them are asking specifically to serve under you." "Why?" Jake asked. "After what happened to the Valiant Dawn, why would anyone volunteer for this?" Amy smiled. "Because you showed them what humans can do when we work together. Because you led us through the impossible and brought us out the other side. Because you're the kind of captain people want to follow into battle." Jake looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, humanity's new fleet was being built. More dreadnoughts, more fighters, more ships to protect human worlds and human interests. The Battle of Kasara Prime had been just the beginning. 3 months later, the Indomitable Spirit launched from Earth's orbital shipyards. Her hull was sleek and powerful, incorporating all the improvements that Danny and his team had designed. Her crew was handpicked, many of them veterans of the Valiant Dawn. Jake stood on the bridge of his new ship, Amy at his side. The crew worked efficiently at their stations, preparing for their shakedown cruise. "All systems are green," Amy reported. "The ship is ready, Captain." Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, new challenges awaited. New battles to fight, new worlds to protect. But he was ready. They all were. "Take us out," Jake ordered. "Let's see what this ship can do." The Indomitable Spirit's engines flared to life. The Dreadnought moved away from Earth, accelerating smoothly. She was headed for the Outer Rim, where human colonies needed protection and humanity's presence needed to be felt. In the months and years that followed, the Battle of Kasara Prime became legend. Songs were written about it. Books were published analyzing every detail. Children across human space played games reenacting the battle. The names of those who fought and died became immortal. But for Jake and his crew, it was just another day in their mission to keep humanity safe among the stars. They had proven themselves once. Now they had to keep proving themselves battle after battle, day after day. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity might be new to the stars, but they were here to stay. They fought with courage, ingenuity, and an unbreakable will. They didn't have the Force like the Jedi. They didn't have the resources of the Republic or the numbers of the Separatists. But they had something equally powerful, the human spirit. And that was enough. The Indomitable Spirit jumped to hyperspace, carrying her crew toward whatever challenges lay ahead. Behind them, Earth grew smaller in the distance, but they carried their home world with them in their hearts. They were humanity's champions, sailing among the stars, ready to face whatever came next. The age of humanity in the galaxy had truly begun. And it was just getting started.